Hey everyone, welcome back to the NES Archive, where we're going to take a look at the North American NES library, one game at a time. Today's game was originally released for the NES in June 1986. The game is Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight was part of the Action series of games. It's essentially a Joust clone. If we take a look at the back of the box, the first thing that we will see is a tagline. It says, "You'll need lightning-fast reactions to win this battle in the sky. Take to the skies, it's Balloon Fight. You'll score lots of points and have loads of fun when you burst enemy balloons and send their parachutes crashing into the sea. But beware, these hot air invaders have an amazing ability to land safely, blow up another balloon, and come back stronger than before. What's more, if you fly too low, you'll be devoured by a man-eating shark. Challenge them alone if you think you're up to it, or team up with a friend. Either way, you'll have the time of your life fighting off your opponents in the sky and avoiding those hungry sharks below in Balloon Fight." The developer of the game was Nintendo, and the design team consisted of producer Gunpei Yokoi. The game was directed by Satoru Okada. Sound was by Hirokazu Tanaka. Design was by Yoshio Sakamoto, who also did the programming for the arcade version of the game, while the legendary Satoru Iwata was in charge of programming for the NES/Famicom version of the game. These developers made games like Duck Hunt, Kid Icarus, Metroid Other M, Super Mario 3D Land, and Mr. Iwata himself went on to become the first president of Nintendo that was not part of the Yamauchi family. Like I said before, the game is basically a ripoff of Joust, which was one of my favorite games growing up. I never actually played Balloon Fight when I was a kid, but having played hours of Joust on the NES and then playing Balloon Fight, I definitely think that this is a better game. You inexplicably play as this guy with a helmet that has balloons tied to it, and I guess these balloons make him lighter than air, so now when he flaps his arms, he's able to float. You flap your arms by pushing the A button, or if you hold down the B button, and I never actually realized this but until after I was researching for this game, if you hold down that B button, he'll continuously flap his arms. I always just spammed it, thinking that I had to hit the button over and over in order to get it to work. There's a bunch of enemies on the screen, and you have to hit them from above in order to pop their balloons, and if they hit you from above, they will pop your balloons. You get 2 balloons, so getting hit once doesn't get you killed, which makes it, for when you only have 1 balloon left, it makes it a little more intense. Now, if you pop the enemy balloons, they will deploy a parachute and float down to safety. If you don't get to them in time and kick them, thereby getting rid of them off the board, they will pump up a brand new balloon and get back into the air. This is a lot like Joust, where you would hit somebody from above, they would fall off their ostrich, an egg would land on the ground, and if you didn't go and kick that egg, it would hatch into a new ostrich, and then you would have that person back in the battle to fight again. In addition to the enemies, you also have clouds which will shoot lightning around the screen, which you have to avoid, these little sparks. And if you get too close to the water, a shark jumps out and eats you. There's also a 2-player mode where you can work together to defeat the enemies, or you will, I'm sure what would end up happening eventually is you end up in a fight against each other for whoever's going to get the higher score. And then finally, there's Balloon Trip, where there's no ground, there's lightning everywhere, the screen auto scrolls, and you've got to last as long as you can to get the highest score. This is the mode that I think is the most fun, though it's definitely the hardest of the 3 modes. Computer and Video Games magazine gave Balloon Fight an 80. They said, overall, this is a great game for those of you with the urge to splurge and a little bit of finesse on the joystick. Generation 4 gave the game a 79. They said it's a remake of Joust and it's improved upon the original. And I totally agree that Balloon Fight is a fantastic game. I really enjoyed playing it. I feel like Balloon Trip is super addictive, and it has that thing that I've talked about before, where you finish, you get a game over and you're just like, I got to try one more time. And Balloon Trip totally nailed it. And the music in Balloon Trip is fantastic as well. Hirokazu Tanaka did a great job on the music for the game, although I wasn't a big fan of the sound effects myself. If you haven't played Balloon Fight, I highly recommend that you check it out. Let's talk a little bit about the trivia for the game. The Balloon Trip portion of the game that I was just talking about was built in just 3 days. Mr. Yokoi came in and he asked Mr. Iwata to make it. Mr. Iwata made it in 3 days all by himself. After that, Mr. Yokoi came in. He played the game for a long time, and then he asked Mr. Iwata to fix a bunch of stuff, and he expected it to take a while because back in those days, programmers would have to reference where in their code to make the changes from like a big stack of paper. But Mr. Iwata had just memorized his code and was able to fix the issues that Mr. Yokoi was noticing almost instantaneously. It just goes to show what a brilliant programmer Mr. Iwata was. So I want to know, were you a big fan of Balloon Fight back in the day? Let me know your thoughts on this classic game that I feel a lot of people probably missed out on. That's it for this episode of the NES Archive. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.